On November 7 at exactly 1:27 p.m. French time, the start of the 15th Transat Jacques Vabre race gets underway, featuring 79 double-handed crews. It's a record number of entries for this legendary race that will finish for the first time in Martinique. Over the last 28 years, the Transat Jacques Vabre race has become an unmissable event for the world's top sailors. Roland Jourdain, a double winner of the race, highlights the significance of what is the longest and most demanding double-handed offshore race.
The Transat Jacques
Vabre is an essential part of the offshore racing landscape. I cannot imagine being without this race, because it's a biannual and has proved durable over time. It's a mark of excellence and a beacon for both classes. It's a time marker on the circuit and the championships. It's essential for a whole system of sponsorship and long-term projects. So it's got to continue or things just won't work.
Birthplace of the race is one of France's largest commercial ports, Le Havre, in Normandy. Sitting at the mouth of the River Seine, its mayor is Edward Philippe. The city and JDE, France's major coffee company, co-founded the race and have partnered with the Normandie region around the values of responsibility, performance, high standards and legacy.
I can't think of many examples of a city and a company that have come together so well to create such a big and demanding event on a regular basis. It shows how proud the organizers are, and clearly pride makes things work.
On the eve of departure, the former Prime Minister spent a few hours aboard a Pivia with Charlie Dallain, the local boy who won the last edition of the Transat Jacques Vabre in the Imoca class. He is the perfect embodiment of a childhood dream come true.
I dreamt on the dockside of the Transat Jacques Vabre when I was a child. My school was right next door, not far from the Paul Vatine dock. In the morning after class, I went to see the boats. I had posters of the sailors in my room. Some are still sailors today. I live the Transat, as we called it in Le Havre. This is my third time in the race, and it's true, every time it feels like I'm living my dream.
D'y participer, c'est ma troisième participation. À chaque fois, j'ai l'impression de vivre un rêve, quoi.
The Docks district is the beating heart of the Transat Jacques Vabre and plays host to the fleet. A sporting arena on water, the docks are an ideal place for the public to get close to the action and dream in front of these 79 racing thoroughbreds. The docks are named after Le Havre's most famous sailor, Paul Vatine, who died in the race in 1999. There's loads for spectators to do at the race village, a real mix of entertainment, information and education. As well as meeting the sailors and their teams, there are conferences on the environment like the decarbonisation of maritime transport or the construction of race boats. The race is known as the Route du Café, the coffee route, because it's always followed the historical maritime routes on which the prosperity of Le Havre was originally based. For the first time, the start and finish will take place in France, because the finish line is in Martinique, off the capital, Fort-de-France. So it's a real return to the original lands of coffee production. The 79 competitors are divided into 4 different classes of boat, and each of them promises to make this an exceptional edition of the race. The largest fleet is the 12-metre monohull, the Class 40. The smallest boats in the fleet, they're designed to be accessible in terms of budget and easy to manage. 45 of them will line up on the start line. The boats that compete in the Vendée Globe race are also here. The 18-metre Imoca class are designed for maximum speed. Thanks to their foils, most can also fly. There are 2 multi-hull categories, The Ocean 50, a 15-metre trimaran that's light, fast, and these days reliable too. And finally, the Ultimes, 32-metre-long trimarans that are 23 metres wide with masts of 37 metres. They're real flying beasts, reaching 80 kilometres an hour at top speed. The classes will all set off together from Le Havre this Sunday, November the 7th. First, they head out of the English Channel and then cross the Bay of Biscay. They'll pass Cap Finisterre and head down to catch the trade winds. Then, south of the Canary Islands, the course divides into three and the fleet separates. The Class 40s follow the shortest course. They'll have to round Cape Verde before heading to Martinique. The Ultimes follow the longest course. The waypoint they have to pass is off the coast of Rio. The Ocean 50s and Democas will follow similar routes towards Fernando de Noronha before all the classes come together for the finish. The destination for all boats in this 2021 edition of the race is Martinique. This new course to Fort de France on seas rarely sailed represents a new challenge for the competitors.
We haven't sailed that part of the course for a long time, so it's really interesting. I think that last leg of the course is something we're all focusing on at the moment because it's the part we know the least.
It's a downwind route. This race course is brand new. It will be like restarting the race again. It's very windy, there can be 25 to 30 knots, a fairly short sea. So yes, we will have to be careful.
Donc 2 semaines de course sur ces bateaux, c'est
2 weeks of racing on this boat is almost a third of a round-the-world race, so it's huge, and we'll have to manage the pace.
gérer le rythme.
Strategy will be part of it. The boats are going to be pretty much on a very tight finish. It's going to be a great race.
Duo, twosome, pairing, double-handed. There are many terms for competing as a pair. To sail double-handed involves combining skills, handling egos, accepting differences and sharing worries. Sailing in pairs is what makes the Transat Jacques Vabre the test it is.
C'est la transatlantique.
It is a Transat race that you share with your partner. It's unique because you have to get the best performance out of the boat while at the same time dealing with the difficulties of working and living together, of dealing with the hard knocks but also sharing moments of joy. I think you have to really complement each other so you can be 100%. Both can have the specialism, but both must be able to sail alone, as we are often alone. When one is resting, the other is on deck. So you have to get along well, overall. Yes, we say we are a pair, that we're going to be able to rest a little bit. But in fact, that's not the case, because the guy on deck is always going to be racing full on. So the guy who's inside cannot really sleep for real. So it's super intense.
Ça dépote derrière.
Les sujets au bouillet, on va toujours vite. On a toujours la balle.
Le double te permet
Double-handed is a great formula. It allows mixed crews, which is good, because we need more women in the discipline.
on manque de femmes dans le milieu et c'est une belle
It's
façon.
basically a great way to get them on board. It's also an opportunity to see 100% female crews.
100% féminin, ce qui est
And we're seeing abilities across the sexes leveling out.
d'une manière générale, les marins sont de plus en plus compétents.
Although the Transat Jacques Vabre has become synonymous with double-handed sailing, the first edition of the race was actually a single-handed contest. In 1993, the first transatlantic race from Le Havre to Cartagena in Colombia was contested by 13 solo sailors, divided into two categories, monohulls and multi-hulls. The fleet of 5 trimarans was fastest, and the race became a formidable duel between Laurent Bourgnon and Paul Vatine. In the end, it was Bourgnon who crossed the finish line first, but Vatine took the title thanks to a 9-hour bonus because of a collision with a support vessel at the start of the race that had forced him to stop for repairs. Aboard Cacolac d'Aquitaine, Yves Pallier took 5 days longer, but with his finish time of 18 days and 23 hours, became the first winner of the race in a monohull. 2 years later, in 1995, Paul Vatine does it again. This time the Transat was raced double-handed so as to distinguish it from the solo Route du Rhum race and English Transat. It proved a winning formula that still allows sailors to push their boats to the max. Paul Vatine and Roland Jourdain guided their boat up a Normandie region to victory ahead of Francis Joyon and Jacques Vincent's Banque Populaire.
The Jacques Vabre 95 is my first big double-handed victory offshore. Thank you to Polo, thanks to Paul Vatine, who invited me to do a season with him and to do the Jacques Vabre on Upper Normandy region boat. So it's definitely a great moment.
In 1997, Bourgnon was back at the helm of his 18-metre trimaran Primagaz. This time he'd enrolled his brother Ivan as crew. The Swiss brothers finished ahead of Paul Vatine and Jean-Luc Nelia and beat the crossing time to Colombia by 6 hours, finishing in 14 days and 5 hours. That year also saw a last appearance in the race for one of France's legendary sailors. A few months before his death in the Irish Sea, 66-year-old Eric Tabarly was competing aboard Aquitaine Innovations. Yves Parlier had asked his help to win the race again.
Your wife, she said it's over, now it's retired, but Yves wants to set off with you in 2 years' time. No, maybe it's over for me.
In 1999, there were different routes and start lines for the monohulls and multi-hulls. The 10 IMOCAs had to pass by St. Barth before reaching Colombia. The leading pair, Catherine Chabot and Luc Bartisol, were forced to make a short stop to pick up an essential sail. It cost them the race. Thomas Coville and Hervé Jean sneaked the victory instead. No hard feelings on arrival as the two crews embraced. But that edition of the race will always be remembered for the tragic death of Paul Vatine. The 60-foot multi-hulls faced a 5,500-mile course via Barbados, but Brocéliande, sailed by Alain Gauthier and Michel Desjoyaux, capsized off Normandy. And then, days later, tragedy struck northeast of the Azores. Jean Morel explains what happened.
Half an hour earlier, I had asked Polo if everything was okay, and then the capsize woke me up. I was sleeping on the floor in the kitchen and rushed to look through the survival hatch. I called Polo, but there was no more Polo. He must have gone overboard.
Combien vous êtes? Polo est parti! T'es tout seul! Il y a des cargos! Un avion arrive! Les cargos arrivent! Où est Polo? Où est Polo?
Polo, c'était un personnage. Hein.
Polo was a real character.
Parce qu'il est dans les étoiles.
I look up when I think of him because he's in the stars now. He was extraordinary, as there are many in this sport.
Pas mal finalement dans le milieu, dans nos métiers. Hein.
He was the kid from Le Havre, the young urchin. He was the guy from the working class neighborhood who wanted to show what he was capable of by conquering the open sea.
Voilà, montrer qu'il était capable de, montrer aux autres, mais tout ça d'une belle façon. Et c'était quelqu'un de passionné, de très laborieux. Il était dans la douleur aussi souvent, mais il fallait faire en sorte. Moi j'étais le troubadour de service pour le faire rigoler.
The multis were won by Loïc Peyron and Frank Profit, ahead of Frank Camas and Steve Ravussin. 2 years later, it's Camas and Ravussin's turn to win. Whilst the monohull victory went to Roland Jourdain and Gaël Leclerc. In 2003, 38 boats started the race. Jean-Pierre Dick and Nicolas Abivin won the IMOCA class, in the race for the first time. Frank Camas, this time partnered with Frank Profit, won the multi-hulls for the second time in a row. A big storm in 2005 shuffled the pack. 10 boats out of the 35 competitors were forced to abandon the race in the Bay of Biscay. The multi-hull fleet was swept away. But if Frank Camas and Frank Profi thought that they'd escaped the worst, they too were later forced to take refuge in the Azores. Lionel Lemonchois and Pascal Bidegori won the race 3 hours ahead of Fred Le Petrec and Yann Guichard.
Et le plus vite c'est qui? C'est Papa. Ouais.
In the 60-foot monohull, only 30 seconds separated Jean-Pierre Dick and partner Loïc Peyron from Roland Jourdain and Ellen MacArthur. In the 50-foot multi-hulls, the father and son duo of the Escoffiers took the spoils.
It's been a week and a half of fun. The heat, the constant breeze, the speed. A really good boat that we got to know as we went along, and in which we had a lot of fun. A real pleasure.
2007 and a speed record for Frank Camas and Steve Ravussin, who took just 10 days to nail a third victory on Groupama. Michel Desjoyaux won the monohulls with Emmanuel Leborgne. 2009, and the finish is now in Costa Rica. Saffron, skippered by Marc Guillemot, and Charles Caudrelier wins the monohull category. There's a second consecutive victory in 50-foot multi-hulls for Frank-Yves Escoffier, this time partnered with Erwan Leroux. Their boat Crêpe Wahoo was fastest overall and the first across the finish line. In 2011, the race start is postponed because of a depression over the English Channel. The eventual winners in the 60-foot monohull category are Jean-Pierre Dick and his partner Jérémy Bayou.
This is my first Jacques Vabre. It's great to win such a race. Look at Jean-Pierre, he's used to victories. He has won so many.
In 2013, the race returns to Brazil and the port of Itajaí, although the start was again delayed by storms. Fabien Delahaye and Sébastien Rogue won the 40-foot title. In the IMOCA class, it was Vincent Rioux and Jean Le Cam who came out on top, finishing only 4 hours ahead of the Guillemot-Bidegori partnership. A few months earlier, Rioux had rescued Le Cam from a capsize off Cape Horn in the Vendée Globe race. So their victory was yet another great chapter in their story of friendship.
From start to the finish, this was a race in which we really pushed the boat.
2015 was a year of innovations with the arrival of foiling IMOCAs and the All-Teams, giant multi-hulls, 32 metres by 23, always bigger, always faster. There was a first win in their first race for François Gabin and Pascal Bidegori, ahead of the Sodebo of Thomas Coville and Jean-Luc Néliès.
We couldn't have dreamt of anything better. I think this boat is just exceptional. I really love it. Simple as that. And sharing all this with Pascal was a delight. And he lost me too.
Second consecutive victory in the IMOCA for Vincent Rioux and Sébastien Coll ahead of Armel Leclerc and Erwan Tabarly. In the multi-50, Erwan Leroux took his third win in the same boat. In 2017, the Class 40 fleet was the biggest in the race, with 15 boats at the start line. The racing was hard-fought, with the lead constantly changing throughout the 17 days of racing. In the end, Maxime Sorel and Antoine Carpentier came out on top with a winning margin of just 18 minutes. Jean-Pierre Dick, partnered with Yann Eliès, won his fourth victory in the IMOCA. Thomas Coville took the all-team title in just 7 days, ahead of Sébastien Joss's Gitana. In 2019, the multi-50 winners were Gilles Lamire and Antoine Carpentier, who crossed the finish line after 11 days and 16 hours at sea.
I told you I would come back to look for a victory, and the victory came today.
In the IMOCA class, Jérémy Bayou and Christopher Pratt on their boat Charal lost their lead in the doldrums and any chance of winning. As they sat stuck there, they were overtaken by a Pivia with Charlie Dallan and Yann Eliès on board.
We were lucky, so lucky at the doldrums.
The Class 40 was won by Ian Lipinski and Adrian Hardy aboard Credit Mutuelle. It was the first boat with a scow, a new design feature that made the hull look like the front of a ski. It's a build feature that has since been copied for all new boats. The 2021 edition will write a new chapter in the history of the legendary Transat Jacques Vabre. 4 classes will line up on the start line. The Class 40 are the smallest boats. 45 competitors make up a really varied fleet. Thanks to its accessibility, the The Class 40 attracts plenty of good amateurs looking for a challenge, sometimes even a family adventure. The Courtois twins won Cap pour Elle, a competition set up by the Transat Jacques Vabre management to promote women in the sport. The Courtois sisters are supported financially and practically by the organisers and race partners Saint-James.
We're passionate adventurers, and this was a huge challenge for us, but totally makes sense. We actually started sailing when we were small girls, but then we put it to one side but sailed occasionally while studying. But this was a great opportunity to start sailing offshore.
There are other sailors who will be pushing themselves to new heights, including athletes transferring from other sports, such as Jean Galfion, Olympic pole vault champion, Ivica Kostelic, the Croatian skier, snowboarder Mathieu Krepel, and Aurélien Ducrot, the freerider. The class has experienced a major design change with the development of scows, rounded hulls that give greater stiffness to the boat, an ability to carry more canvas and improved movement through the water. And it's from this group of 12 big nose boats that we expect the winner to emerge.
I think it's going to be similar to a solo race, like the Solitaire de Figaro, with boats that are really close, except it will be in the Atlantic. We saw in the pre-season races that the level is very high. Most of the contenders train together in Lorient, so they know each other very well. If I had to choose three names, I would say there is Yann Lipinski and Julien Poulvet on Crédit Mutuel. I would also say Axel Tréhin et Fred Denis. And I also would say Antoine Carpentier and Pablo on Redman. These are the three boats that really dominated the season. They train the most, they know how to make the boats work.
The IMOCA class is experiencing an incredible boom after a highly publicised Vendée Globe. The sailors in this class are all professional and in with a chance, although the boats with foils, appendages that allow monohulls to fly, are likely to dominate.
We clearly have a real favorite. The winner of the previous edition, Apivia. I think they have 300% control over their boat. They go very, very fast. So they are my winners.
It's going to be even harder to get a good result because there's a lot of good boats, and the boats are really reliable now and have been tried and tested on the Vendée. So I think in theory, we should see less technical problems, and that will lead to closer racing and more exciting scenarios for everybody to watch as we race across the Atlantic.
The 7 Ocean 50 trimarans are sailed by experienced crews with full control of their boat's performance.
There are almost only potential winners. There are tough racers in this class, but you have to know how to balance speed with risk. And that's going to be the deciding factor. There will be the strategy. We have the right to routing, so it's interesting. But I think it's going to be a lot about knowing how to go fast by preserving your boat without taking too many risks.
Sans prendre trop de risques aussi, parce que rester à l'endroit.
The all teams are the fastest trimarans and will face the longest course. With little to separate the crews in skill and ability, it's the reliability of these large and fragile dragonflies that will be decisive.
In the Ultime, Charles and Frank get the points because Gitane is probably the most successful of the boats. Thomas Sodebo has also won a lot. SVR Lazartigue of my neighbor François Gabard and Tom. They could get something, maybe get a result. They've already proven this by launching a boat very late. And then there is Banque Populaire. Armel and Kevin are great, so it's definitely super open. Not to mention Actual, which holds a great boat too, so it's pretty open. We will need to be closely looking at the rankings. All the skippers will go there to win, and so do we. We know how to win the race. It's good because Charles and myself were able to win this race already. The boat is capable of winning. We did it in Brest-Atlantique, so that gives us a lot of confidence. We know that we have to increase our level of play, that's obvious. And that's good, because that's what's exciting. It's to keep improving. That's what we do it for.
On fait tout pour.
The 15th edition of the Transat Jacques Vabre will be a champagne race for sure, whoever the winner is. The fastest boat should reach Fort de France in a fortnight. The departure? Sunday, November the 7th.
The sea, with all its unpredictables, can in a second ruin plans and hopes. That's the game, that's the way it is. There is no such a thing as zero risk. So the favorite on paper doesn't always turn out to be the winner.
Même dans la vie, dans la vraie vie, quoi.
On va écrire des nouvelles.
We're going to write new lines in the history of the offshore racing.
The Transat
Jacques Vabre is always super good because the course is fantastic, because sharing it double-handed with someone is just great.
On est content d'arriver.
We are happy to ride because you can't take this stress for too long.
C'est trop long quoi, hein, de tenir ce stress tout le temps.
We both fought together, side by side.
C'est vrai que dans notre engagement,
it's true we push ourselves to the max, right to the limit. We even risk our skin. It might sound crazy and irresponsible. I want to do it again.
J'ai envie de recommencer.
Et puis quelque part par là-bas, il y a Michel Desjoyaux, l'excellent professeur.
Ça tient un peu longué notre histoire.
Moi j'ai l'impression d'être parti hier tellement ça a été intense.
On va être paf avec ça.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I can't wait to get onto the start line and see that for real.